Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are. Whatever time of day you're watching this, hope you are having a wonderful day. And welcome to your post-match analysis on Brighton 0, Nottingham Forest 0. In today's video, we will be going through just key highlights. It's not going to be too long today. Looking at heat maps, looking at passing accuracy, looking at general performance, and we'll be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of that game last night. Look, for any neutral who was watching it, I am sure it wasn't exactly the most entertaining match of football you've ever seen. But the positives are Forest were able to gain a point and at least for 48 hours remove themselves off the foot of the table. So before we get into it, guys, if you would be kind enough to give the vid a quick like, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support us by becoming a member for only 99p, please hit that join button down below. I want to thank the amount of new members we got on yesterday's stream. Love each and every one of you and the old members, and you guys who are just generally watching the video. It's an absolute pleasure to do these Forest videos with the feedback that I'm getting back from you guys. So let's jump into it and let's talk about the game. Okay, so I think the best place to start with this would be just a quick summary / analysis of the team. We've done a summary of the game and everything. If you haven't seen the player ratings, go check that out. It was like my initial reaction as always just after the game. But this is the team we started with, and to be honest, I wasn't very happy with it. We went back to that false nine trio of Lingard, Gibbs White and Johnson. And I do feel that this is a case of Cooper trying to shoehorn Lingard back into the team. We can't really find a solution for him when Gibbs White is playing because they almost need to play in the same position. And what he ends up doing is dropping a renowned number 9 to accommodate for it. And I do feel, look, you can have whatever opinion you have on Owoni or Surridge, but they are out and out number 9s. And it gives the team a bit more balance up front when you do have a number 9. At least that's my opinion on it. When you're playing this false 9, or when you're playing with Lingard full stop, who is just, for me, not that. Guys, down below, are you sold in on Lingard or not? Let me know in the comments. Do you believe he will turn it around? Or are you even been happy with what his performance this season so far? I really am interested to know. Look, in terms of the midfield, I was okay with it when I saw O'Brien wasn't named on the team sheet. He must obviously be struggling with that illness he has. For me, if O'Brien was fit, I would have replaced him for Yates. And we'll talk about Yates in a second. In terms of the back four, Cook is still the problem. Look, he did play good yesterday, but he played well because we built the team around him. Like it or lump it, believe me or don't believe me, that really is the source of our problems at the moment. The deep line is coming from protecting the pace and building that defense around Yates. You saw, guys, surely when Biancone came on, the difference in pace, the difference in aggression as well to get forward. Imagine that pace at centre-back, or the likes of Bidet at centre-back, or even Worrell, who can pass better than Cook does as well. But overall, the team clearly indicated that we were in for another low block session yesterday. And when I bring up the heat map, just let's do that now actually. So if I remove that, when you look at the heat map, again, this runs in line with the video I released the other day in terms of how Forest are playing and where they seem to be getting most of the ball. As I showed you, the only areas that Forest tend to dominate are in and around the central areas of their box. And this was evident again yesterday. You can see the darkest red for Forest was pretty much on the goal line, so to speak. And then when we tended to get the ball, it was very wingy in the attacks. And you can draw a clear empty line through that middle of that park all the way to the Brighton goal area. And that's just reflective so far. And that's exactly what I expected from yesterday's match based on looking at all the stats previously. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It was called the Cold Hard Facts, I believe. And it reflects this heat map to a T. And we got exactly what we expected. Now, counter that with Brighton's heat map, you can see it's a lot higher up the pitch. There's more red in and around the central areas of the midfield as well. And they were getting a decent amount of touches in our box. So overall, it is what I expected. But is this the solution going forward is really my question today. Because the headlines have all read that Forest have conceded 18 goals or whatever it is in the in the last few games prior to these three. We've only conceded 2 goals so far in the last 3 games. I really am more interested in someone addressing the other stat, which is we've only scored 1 goal in 4 matches. And that seems to be being ignored. And this area here, as long as it remains empty right here, that 1 from 4 is going to be 2 from 5. Well, we've got Liverpool next. Probably going to be 1 from 4 for a while. And are you guys happy with this approach? I was happy with the point, but I'm not happy with my team before the match just basically telling the opposition that you're better than us, whoever you are. As long as you're Premier League, we are going to start on the assumption that you're better than us, and we're not even going to come out and try and fight to get a goal. Yes, we'll fight in the defence, we'll try and fight for the balls in the midfield, but this heat map clearly shows play low block and play for a 0-0, because that's probably the best we could have got from yesterday. Okay, so I want to have a quick comparison about our 3 midfielders versus 4-ish of the Brighton midfielders. And you can see, again, the heat map colours are very, very different, and very different in terms of the depth across the pitch as well. Where we were doubling up was clearly against Trossard, coming down their left-hand side, our right-hand side. And you saw Yates and Freuler tried to marshal him as best they could, and they tended to double up there. If I show you the individual heat maps, I'll just take Mangala off there. You can see that Yates, for example, his hottest area was here, roughly where Trossard would be, and Freuler would tend to back him up in and around this area. But overall, when you look at the touches, you can't argue that Brighton didn't dominate the midfield battle. 317 versus 109 of ours. I haven't even added Gross and Lallana into this. Look, even if I added Gibbs White and a couple of others from ours, trust me, guys, they dominated. I don't think that's up for debate. But what we did do was play a little better in terms of battling qualities. Yates, I'll give him credit, battled well. Didn't think he was great in the first half, but I do think a lot of Forest fans have gone crazy high over his performance in the second half. He was still misplacing passes. He still didn't have too much to do with the ball. He took a few decent hits for the team, which is what you expect of him. And as I said in the player ratings yesterday, it's what I expect of all 11 players as a standard when you cross that white line. So overall, the midfield battled hard, but they weren't able to progress the ball forward. And until we solve this conundrum, and I think this conundrum is solved by the defensive line playing slightly higher, maybe 10 yards higher, if we can put some pace in there, then we're going to see the same problem, because it's all that was happening loads of times. Cook would get the ball, take an extra touch on it, look up, no one was available for a pass, Hollywood ball over the top, straight into one of the Brighton defenders' laps, and then they would start their attack back up. So that was happening a lot during that game. And if we compare the 2 defensive lines, you can see the big difference in what I'm talking about, and what a difference it makes to be defending slightly higher up. The Brighton defense were holding a line outside of their box, and probably about 23 yards was their average position in terms of how far up their field, versus ours, if I just move my head here slightly, which was in the box, in and around the penalty area. But again, it was heavily weighted towards the right-hand side. These are just the 2 centre-backs because of the threat that Trossard was bringing from that left-hand side for Brighton. But still, it's too deep in my opinion, and until we take Cook out of the team, and I know you guys are probably going to say, yeah, but he played well. That's not the point I'm making here. I'm not judging his performance. I'm judging his capability. And someone with better pace in that centre-back area will allow us to play higher up the pitch. And you can see it there clearly in the difference of the heat map. Just go a little deeper into it. I want to look at the passing accuracy across both teams. This is the Brighton team from yesterday. You can see there's loads of performances here in the 90s for them. McAllister, the midfielder, Lamptey as well as Dunk, the centre-back. And then most of their team were in the 80s, apart from March and Trossard as well, who were obviously heavier marked, and that's probably why they had less passing accuracy. But bear these numbers in mind. You can say at least on average, I don't know, I'm not doing the math on this, probably a team average of like 85% or something like that. Let's bring it on to the Forest team. You look here, Brennan Johnson was at 100% pass accuracy, but he did only have 10 touches and not many passes, to be honest. Same with Lingard, 16 touches the whole match. For me, pretty pathetic performance, but his passing accuracy was okay. And then outside of that, we're all in the 70s here. And when we get down to the likes of Scott McKenna, Aurier, and Morgan Gibbs-White, who probably had one of his worst games for Forest there, they're in the 50s. And this is what's causing major issues within the midfield structure, is that we can't seem to get a ball from A to B between the two players. And these passing accuracy stats do not lie. Forest are not opening themselves up to receive passes. And because we're playing so deep, a lot of these balls that are played are just long balls lumped forward, trying to aim it roughly at Brennan Johnson, trying to aim it at MG Dub or Lingard, all of which are small players who haven't got that physique and strength to hold up a ball. And it underlines my point of a need for a number 9 who can at least be a bit busier and staying up front, holding the ball up. These stats do tend to prove that's the case. But overall, passing accuracy in general needs to improve. For those of you who are interested, Dean Henderson's passing accuracy was at 70% yesterday. So let me know if you think his distribution was better or worse than previous games. I know it's been a hot topic of debate. Let me know down below if you're impressed with Hendo, who was my man of the match, because a goalkeeper at the end of the day is there to save shots and keep clean sheets. And he made some really, really big saves and important ones for us yesterday. And I think he really did earn us that point last night. I want to praise Ryan Yates here for blocked shots. It's something that I picked up and criticised him for against Fulham, where he was turning his back a lot and not closing down players on the edge of the box. I feel he's learnt from that. He's moved forward and he started to block shots as well. And as you can see from the stats here on the blocked shot, he finished top. Look, it was only 2, but small green shoots. We'll cling on to them as Forest fans. If we look at the total tackles, though, there wasn't a huge amount of tackles being done. 2 by Aurier, 2 by Williams, 2 by Freuler, 1 by Ryan Yates. It was the interceptions that was really good from Nico Williams, who did grow into the second half. I felt he was poor first half and he didn't look quite comfortable on that left-hand side. And if you look at clearances as well, Cook was making a lot of clearances with McKenna, 12 between them, and then Henderson coming in third place, obviously, as the goalkeeper. You would expect that. But overall, it was a battling performance. But I would say that Brighton didn't really pose much of a threat. With Danny Welcrap up front, you always feel that you're going to be quite safe with a striker of no pedigree like him up front. But interesting stats to share with you, and let's do a few more. Okay, in terms of passes in general, Steve Cook had the most, but obviously that's where the ball was most of the time. What was good to see was Freuler was up there with passing stats, and his passing accuracy was okay in comparison to the rest of the team. But you can see most of the passes were done by the defenders. You're looking at Cook, Henderson, Aurier, Williams. It's not until you get to Morgan Gibbs-White that you see well, apart from Freuler, of course, but he was sitting quite deep, is that you see one of our more attacking players getting not even 18 isn't a great amount of passes in a game. But he had 18, Yates had 17, and Mangala had 16. You can just see it was total domination by Brighton. Whatever goggles you want to wear for this match, you would have to admit that Forest did well to hold off. And look, give them credit, in previous matches, we probably would have cracked and conceded 1, and then in Tesco Bogoff style, would have given a second and a third free of charge. But we seem to be learning from that. What we're not learning from, however, is how do you turn defense into attack? Because you come across a decent team who can attack, and we've got 2 of them coming up in the next few days. You're not going to be able to hold out that long. Not every team will bless us with the gift of having Danny Welcrap up front. We're not going to have that for sure in the next 2 games. And yes, it was good to get a point, but the message from today's video is do not get ahead of yourselves. And I'm sure not many Forest fans are. And do not overinflate some of the average performances. But because we've been so deprived for that, we're putting it up here on pedestals at the moment. Just look at that in comparison to Brighton's passing. 88 for Webster, 87 for Dunk, Vetman 82, McAllister 81, Casado 71, 41. Look, it's not until you get to 42, which is pretty much half their team, before you get to Forest's highest passing stat, which was Steve Cook. In fact, 7. You can add him as well, gross on 42. And that's the point I'm making. We're still developing, we're still embryonic at the moment, and there still is a long way to go. So we can't get too ahead of ourselves and think that we can build off this performance because of the next 2 games we got. Look, realistically, our next chance of a point is Brentford at the City Ground, which is in 3 games' time. But what are the results going to be against Liverpool and Arsenal? And are we going to find ourselves again looking for confidence if they do go and put us to the sword over the next 2 matches? And that is my worry. And my worry is as well, if we're going to play low block against Liverpool, which I can almost guarantee that we will, and then we go and play low block against Arsenal, when we get to the Brentford match, it's not like a light switch. You can't just go from low block to normal expansive football, with a click of a button. How are we going to adapt that into the Brentford match, where clearly we're going to need to pick up some points, and then in the Crystal Palace match as well? This is a very, very important time of the season that we're going into. We're sitting on 6 points. We should be, in my opinion, had results played out and had we managed games better, we really should be sitting on about 14 points at the very least. 2 points lost at Everton, 3 points lost at Bournemouth, 3 points lost at Fulham, and potential points we could have had at Wolves as well. So what's that? 2, 5, 8, 9. So you add 9 to the 6, you're looking at 15 points. This is the fine margins of the Premier League. You can't give away 9 points cheap. If we were sitting on 15 points right now, we'd all be doing somersaults and looking very happy and smiley at the moment. But this is the margins of the Premier League. Those lost points, and I still go back to that Bournemouth match, is still the match where confidence got shot. And I don't think we've fully recovered. We're starting to see some shoots, but we've had to change our play style 180 degrees just to try and recover from it. And it's slightly worrying still. It'll be interesting to see how we get into the Liverpool match. There's a very brief match analysis for you guys. Tonight we have the Forest Forum, and I can't wait to hear the guys' opinions on the game. The good stuff, the bad stuff, and where we can improve going into the Liverpool match. We'll be kicking off at 9 p.m. tonight. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be thoughtful, but it's going to be honest. And our opinions here are always honest on this channel. I only bring on guests who will give me honest opinions and not sit on the fence. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to your involvement with it in the chat as well. We'll wrap the video up there. Thank you so much for watching as always, and thank you all so much for the support and love you've been giving me and the channel as of late. I will keep working hard to deliver content to you. If there's any particular content you want to see, as always, just reach out to me on Twitter or in the comments down below. It's Wolverine8125 on Twitter, and I'm prepared and more than happy to create that content for you. Thank you for watching. Before you go, please do not forget to give the video a quick like, subscribe to the channel, and come on you Reds, we'll see you tonight at 9.